Hello, everybody. This is Jack Hammer and Jessie Naylor, and you are watching the Hammer Nail Show, episode 26 tonight. Episode 26. How you doing tonight, Jessie?
Hey, Jack, you know what? I've obviously got my own channel things going on, but I'm a couple days removed from that. Going on with Grant last night and you tonight. It's like my home away from homes. So I feel good about it, man.
Good. And I know you and I have messaged a few times about that whole thing, and a lot of other folks have reached out to you too. And
Yeah, for sure.
it's I didn't see what happened, and and I heard about it through your tweet and reached out to you to find out what the heck happened. And you guys put a ton of work into that, and that's a really bad deal to have happen. And I know Grant touched on this last night with you, and same here. That's the kind of stuff, we do this for fun, but we also do it we put a lot of time and effort into this stuff.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
once you get to a certain level, you're able to make some money that definitely helps out with paying for groceries and stuff like that. And to have something like that take it away through no fault of your own is awful. So I just want to say that I'm sorry to hear about what's going on with that.
Yeah, you always got my back, Jack. I already know. We'll build it back. We're fine. I just want an answer. So let's talk some 49ers tonight, though, man. Let's get that bad funk out of here.
That's right. Let's go. Let's do this. We're talking about bad funk, and let's start right here with Jimmy Garoppolo. Right, everybody's favorite topic, Jimmy Garoppolo. That's a good segue, Jesse. Thank you very much. And the question really is: Jimmy Garoppolo still the apple of Kyle Shanahan's eye, in your opinion, or why would he be?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why he would be. So obviously, I'm as excited about Trey Lance as anybody. After the 49ers lost to Seattle, normally that would ruin my week. Losing to Seattle is like the worst possible scenario as a 49er fan. But the way that, Trey was able to come in, and it sucks that, Jimmy was hurt, but just seeing Trey made it worth it, right? It was fun for me. I felt really good about it. And it took away the sting a little bit, but I can understand why Jimmy would still be the apple of his eye. And what I mean by that is Kyle wants the quarterback position played a certain way. Like, that's very clear. He expects certain things out of his quarterbacks. And although Jimmy has a ton of limitations, I could go all day about that, he still makes a very good first read, and he knows where to go with the ball at all times, right? And when you see him play versus Trey Lance, Trey Lance was very chaotic. Like, they moved the ball, and there was a lot that I liked out of it. I felt very encouraged by Trey, but it was chaotic. It was definitely chaotic. And, Jimmy definitely has his moments where he gets a little lost in the pocket or what have you, and we like to make fun of it. But he ultimately, for the most part, he helps that offense at least stay on schedule. And I think that Shanahan likes just being on schedule as a play caller and not being all over the place. I don't think he likes the chaos. And so I could see why Jimmy would be the apple of his eye still.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's the chaos. It's with Garoppolo. I think he has a Shanahan feels like things are going to happen the way that they're supposed to happen more often than not. His offense is going to be run the way that it should be, I guess, for a lack of a better term. That's probably not the best way of putting it, but it's a little bit more predictable, I guess, for Shanahan is the better way of putting it. And it's definitely more schizophrenic, the word I'd use for the way that it's just chaotic, whatever, with Trey Lance. It's all over the board, and he's going to calm down. That's going to go away a little bit, but I think that part of his game is always going to be there to an extent because of his athleticism. But I think it's going to slow down so it's not so off
frantic.
Not so frantic like it was on Thursday night or Thursday night on Sunday afternoon.
What's crazy though is it's almost like an organized chaos, because I feel like everything around him is going haywire because of the way that he's playing as a rookie. Mm-hmm. But he actually looks very calm, which is I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to watch, because there was a couple of plays where he got a horrible snap and he just one hand plucks it out of the air, keeps his eyes downfield, ho hum, I'm good. I'm comfortable here. But everything around him seems to be going nuts. And then all of a sudden, like, he shrugs off a one-arm tackle, and he's going crazy in the. I don't know. It's interesting to watch. It's a lot of fun. Is what I'll say.
Yeah, no, it definitely did, and we're going to get into Lance in here in a minute. Some more of what we liked about it, but as far as the Garoppolo piece, that I think we covered that pretty well with as far as why he'd want to go in that direction, or he likes him so much compared to the fan base, at least, right?
Do you think that there's a chance that Garoppolo still plays Sunday? Because I really feel like if Garoppolo is healthy, he's playing. Like that's.
I don't.
You don't? Okay. You think that they're just trying to throw off Arizona?
I think that he hasn't practiced for 2 days. I think this is going to be Trey Lance's game, and it's going to and where they go from here will depend on how he plays in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's fair.
That's right. That's where I go with that one. So let's jump into Lance real quick, and then we can talk about some of the other stuff that you and I were talking about before we jumped on the air.
Yeah.
Just as far as Trey Lance himself and his performance on Sunday, because it was the first time we've really gotten to see him play this season as a member of the 49ers and really kind of get into a rhythm of a game. The good, the bad, the ugly. Where do you go on this?
Well, okay, so let's start off with the ugly. I'm going to work a little backwards here. So the ugly for me was clearly those first 2 throws of the game. I mean, he has Jack. That play, by the way, was exactly what I said Kyle should be doing with Trey. Rollouts, high-low reads, option to run. And so I gave Kyle Shanahan a 10 on that. I'm like, that's exactly what he should be doing with Trey on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. But Trey just throws it square in the dirt. It looked like a screenplay where there's a defender in the way and you just throw it in the dirt to get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like the one Garoppolo had earlier in the game.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's jitters, it's nerves. So that was the ugly. Those first 2 throws were all right. I'm a little nervous, right, watching this. I would say the bad is his overall pocket presence. So he has good pocket presence in a sense that he can feel pressure and protect himself. But he has bad pocket presence in the sense that he just drops back. And those edge rushers, where they're trying to rush around the tackles, they basically end up where he's at all times. So instead of fading back, he's got to be able to feel it and take a step or 2 forward so that he can keep his eyes downfield and throw the ball. But instead, he'll feel the pressure and he panics a little bit and he takes off and runs. So that's where I would say the bad is at. But the good, and this is why I'm so encouraged, is he was pressured a lot, and some of that was his own doing. I'll definitely say that. But there was the throw to Debo where he was rolling out left and he had to shake off a defender, and then he came back across his body and hit him for a first down. Yeah. There was the throw to Sanu that was similar to that. I thought that was fantastic. Mm-hmm. His running ability, this was one thing that a lot of people questioned. They felt like maybe he's not as good of an athlete as what people had made him out to be coming into the NFL. And I think that he showed that he belongs on the NFL level as an athlete. He certainly can protect himself. He definitely can pick up yards on the ground. And those are some of the things that give me excitement for the future. Was it perfect? No, it definitely wasn't perfect. But there was enough for me to feel good about what I saw.
Okay. Yeah. I'll go through mine real quick. As far as the ugly, I agree with you. The first pass attempt on the second series, that was an ugly one. And that goes along with what we saw on his college tape a little bit, right? He had some issues with that rollout to his right, because they usually play action and roll him out to the right. And we saw him do that a few times, not that bad, but where he basically tackle the guy in the flat with the ball low. So there's that. That was definitely ugly. The second throw I didn't mind as much, because I think if he tries to fit that in there, it's a bad situation with the traffic that was in front of him. So it's actually kind of funny that a ball that flew over 5 feet over the guy's head isn't considered ugly, but I don't consider that one ugly. The other thing that I would say was ugly was just a couple times when he dropped back. This was before the final series, when things were really coming at him from all different directions, though. And you could physically when you watch him on the all 22 from the view behind him, you can actually see his head go down to where he's looking at the line. That's
Hmm.
ugly to me. I don't
Yeah.
like that at all. That's kind of a scary thing for a coach to see because that just tells you that he's looking down, right?
Yeah.
That's not good. He's taking his eyes off the field. So that's the ugly for me. Um, the bad, uh, you know, I, he did fine. There was a lot of things. When I watched the game live, I came away with a different feeling when I watched the all 22 to an extent than when I watched the game live, and I'll
Hmm.
explain that in a minute. But as far as the bad, I don't know if there was anything that else that I'd say is really bad. I mean, he was a little late on a throw to um, Juwan Jennings on the right side on a little curl. He kind of came back to it just a tick late, and I think if he'd come there just a split second sooner, it's a completion. Um, I didn't like him scrambling a couple. So another one with the bad would be him scrambling a couple times when I thought he had somebody ahead of him that he could throw the ball to. Because there were a couple of times where he had his check down like in front of him, and if he just throws it to like Hughes check, I think it was on one, he's probably going to pick up the first down instead of Lance scrambling and getting tackled for a short of the yard to gain. So those are the things that I would say are the bad. I wouldn't call those ugly at all. Those are just bad plays. I think that he needs to improve on. And I wouldn't even really say those are bad. Those are just because those are plays that he just needs to get better at. And then the good, yeah, my two favorite plays of the game from him were the fourth down play that you mentioned, where he play
Hmm.
actions, rolls to his right, has to stop, bounce back to his, rolls to his left, has to stop, bounce back to his right, and then throw it to his left to Debo. That was a tremendous play. And when you watch that one, when I watched that one from the end zone view, that looks like the same number and everything. The fact that the way that he's holding the ball in one hand, he's jumping as he throws it, that looked like Jeff Garcia when he was playing with the 49ers throwing the ball to Terrell Owens. That's what
Yeah.
that reminded me of. And then the other one that I really liked from him was on that final drive, getting pressure, stepping up. He's having to kind of move around. He keeps his eyes down the field though, and he hits Mohamed Sanu for a first down. I think it was a first down. That was a beautiful play. That's the kind of play when I was like on my bad plays that I was mentioning. That's how those would have been good plays
Yeah.
if he had just kept his eyes up and hit the guy that was in front of him. Because I like the fact that he can run, but I'd rather him throw the ball when there's a throw there, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And so those are my good. And then as I know that when we talked on Monday, when I walked out of the stadium Sunday, there's just things you're so far you're very high. It's a great view because you can see the whole field. So there were things that I could see the plays developing downfield, and so sometimes I wasn't really watching him as much as I was looking to kind of see where he was looking, like if there was anybody open. Sometimes just watching that, and there was one time when he escaped to his right. He had Mohamed Sanu wide open in the middle of the field, but he got pressured, so he had to move. And so as he starts to move, the receiver comes open. It might not have been Sanu, it might have been Debo. I'm not sure who it was, but it would have been about a 20, 30-yard pass, but he's wide open running back to him, and he starts to try to throw it to him, and the ball gets knocked down at the line of
Yeah. I
scrimmage.
got tipped. I remember that play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't recognize that though from up where I was. It looked like he just threw the ball away, like he was just dumping
Mm.
it off, like he didn't see
Gotcha.
he didn't see it. So when I watched the all 22, I'm like, okay, that's not a bad play like I thought it was. So there was some of that too. I still stand by what I just said as far as the way the defense played differently on the final drive, because I do feel like Seattle completely changed the way they were attacking the 49ers on that left drive. They hadn't really shown that wide defensive front throughout the game. They got into more of just a pass defense, but whatever. Forget about that for a minute though. And the other part of what I had said in my original tweet after the game was it called it garbage time, but I said it was good to see him get the reps, and that's 100%. And in those reps, you saw him play well, and so I'm not going to take that away from him. I think a lot of the back and forth that you and I had and other people had, like on Monday and after the game, was more about the comparison to what he was seeing compared to what I think the first half looked like, and the way that kind of stuff. So, but
Yeah.
overall,
I think
when
it
I
got better as it went, though. That's like my biggest thing is it really did start. I mean, it started out as bad as it could, in my opinion, with those passes. And then I just felt like every day he just eased in a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit. You know what I mean?
he did, and I will say my concern though heading into this week is I'm just don't want to see him struggle in the beginning of the game because Arizona is not going to be playing the way that Seattle was playing on that final drive. It was a really good drive. So let's
Mm-hmm.
give them credit for it. But you're not going to see Seattle or Arizona play like that on Sunday unless the game's out of reach. They're going to
For
be
sure.
doing a lot of different things. I know that Seattle was mixing up their zone coverages and stuff in the back end and faked a couple of times, once or twice, that they were going to blitz. But by there were times when the middle linebacker was lining up 8-9 yards off the ball on that drive too. Because they were
Yeah.
trying to keep everything in front of them. So, but forget all that. It was a good drive. Stay positive, Jack. And 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 no, because I want to make sure that that everybody understands that I am positive about the performance. I was much more negative in the beginning of the week than I was as I watched the film. I had that change. My opinion on that changed a little bit.
Yeah, and I think you know what. Here's the one thing that I want to say is that like I think you genuinely 99.999% of the time really are the fairest. Even during the preseason, like you were very fair in your criticism of him. I felt like this week I was like, okay, like you're trying to be so fair that you're just like it's like this is his first start. He's 21. He hasn't played in whatever. And I know that you have to judge him just based off of what you see. Like none of the other stuff matters technically when you're watching film. You're just judging what you see. I was like, man, like, are you just down on him now? Like, what's going on? I thought we were Team Trey over here.
No, it's not, and that's and I'm not down on Trey Lance or whatever. Like you and I had this argument or discussion during preseason, I think, where,
Mm-hmm.
and I said that I'm going to grade him, and when I break down his film, it's going to be just like I'm breaking down the film of Jimmy Garoppolo, and I understand that one guy's a veteran, and the other one's a rookie. I don't think that when Kyle Shanahan sits in the room with them, he treats them any differently, though. And so that's partly why I do it the way that I do it, because that's just my personality and the way that I think that they're going to be coached up. And I think that it's good to share that information with the people. And if they don't understand and they get frustrated by it, I apologize, but I'm not going to change.
It is what it is. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. I wrote an article that came out today that I definitely think that it should be Trey Lance, and we'll see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. It's a get out of jail free card they've got. They got to play it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And real quick, I know we're going to talk about Twisted. Eva says, "What's up, Jack and Jessie? Keep bringing the great content." So thank you very much for the donation there. Just wanted to get that out. And then, before you and I came on, we were talking a little bit about. I think it kind of fits in with this topic that here, we had talked a little bit about the Trey Lance and the expectations. You think this would be a good time to kind of discuss that?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. So, because there seems to be, people are really trying to pump up Trey Lance. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need to, quite frankly, pump the brakes a little bit on it. Not that, because there's the expectation that things are going to be so much better than they are with Jimmy Garoppolo. And they might be. But at the same time, he's a rookie. If he does start on Sunday, it'll be his first NFL start. So to expect him to come out and blow it out of the water as an expectation, I think is unfair to Lance. I think it's unfair to everybody, because if he doesn't, a lot of, who are you going to blame? Are you going to blame Lance? Some people are going to blame Lance. Some people are going to blame Shanahan, and the blame game will start up, And the other piece, and I saw this stat thrown out today, was, the 49 running game in the second half averaged 5.1 yards per carry compared to 3.6 yards per carry all season long. Look how much better he made the offense, the running game. And to me, to me, it's like, okay, that stat is technically correct, right? Because it's But if you're going to compare the running game before Trey Lance and with Trey Lance, I think you need to do it in the same game that Lance really played, right? And put that in to kind of give it a little context. And the 49ers averaged 4.7 yards per carry in the first half with Garoppolo. They averaged 5.1 with Lance. And I don't know how you would take this, but I also look at it and I'm saying 20 of those yards came in the last drive. Maybe this is me getting into the weeds too far, and you can tell me that I'm full of baloney, and that's fine. I'll take it tonight. If you the context of those 20 yards is they're playing off
Yeah.
And so do you give him those yards as positives to the running game?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because and this is for the same reason that I actually do give him credit for the way he passed on the last
Mm-hmm.
drive,
Mm-hmm.
because they were in strictly pass defenses. They were spying them. They showed blitz a couple times. The corners weren't playing the boundaries and super far off. I thought I was like, I got to give him credit for passing on this drive. I don't think they were playing that far off. However, they were clearly playing a pass defense. So, when the run happens, it is tough to, you know what I mean? It's like I can't have
Yeah.
both. It is fair to say that there was soft coverage somewhere, right? And although I
Right.
don't believe it was there in the pass game, I do think it was there in the run game on that final drive. And that's so it's tough. I'll say this. They should average more yards with Trey Lance running or in the game, because that's what he brings to the game. Like that is a fair expectation. Expecting him to come out and throw it all over the yard and make the same reads that even Jimmy does. And I know that Jimmy frustrates the heck out of people, but he knows where he's supposed to go in the offense. Maybe sometimes he doesn't get it there. He doesn't have the arm strength, or he chooses to check down and whatever. That's fine, but he knows where he's supposed to go. Trey Lance, he has trouble reading a defense. And so what happens is he's naturally going to use his athleticism and mobility. So they should average more yards per carry and they should average more rushing yards. But that doesn't necessarily, I don't know. I want to give him credit for it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
he does open up the run game. And it's one of the reasons why I thought that they should have started him week 1, because it's a run first team. But at some point, he's going to have to sling it a little bit. And when he does have to, is that going to be a realistic expectation? And I'm not sure that is.
Yeah, and real quick too, and to be fair, if we take out those, let's just take the runs from Lance out of the running game for a minute
Mm-hmm.
and just look at his effect on the running backs. And I think this is a more fair way of judging
Mm-hmm.
his influence on the running game, because he's going to run, he's going to get his yards on the scrambles
For
and stuff
sure.
like that. So you can't really consider, I wouldn't consider like a scramble. That's kind of a quasi run. But if you take the running backs, take Deebo Samuel's run out of it because he's not a running back. If you just take the effect that he had on Trey Sermon,
Mm-hmm.
there was a positive effect.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't get onto my Twitter feed earlier because I ran out of time, and I just started looking at the numbers and trying to break them down tonight. With Trey Lance in the game, the running backs ran for 5 yards per carry. They ran in the second half. They ran for 4.7 in the first half. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a nice boost, really. It's a bigger boost than what 0.3 looks like
Yes,
when you start to add
absolutely.
that up over a course of 5, 6, 7 runs or whatever. It becomes a much bigger deal. So there was definitely a boost there. Let's just tamper it down to the expectations that it's going to go
Right.
from 3.6 to 5.1.
Well,
That's
and
what
here's the thing: is it actually might be really good this week as well, because Arizona
it,
doesn't have the best run defense, right? So
it might be. It
yeah,
might be. And plus, again, his running game is very similar to what they do, but you could see some changes in there once he got in, because now he becomes a runner as well, and a run threat. And so
yeah,
the other thing that we hadn't talked about this, but I'm just going to throw this out here real quick to you, because you and I have talked a lot about Trey Lance this offseason and so on. One of the things that I was excited to see is, as I watched the game back, there were a lot of concepts that he ran in college utilized on
mm,
Sunday. Even though people are saying, the game plan wasn't set up for him, when you go
yeah,
back and you watch the game, there's a lot of stuff that they did in that game that he excelled at North Dakota State. So again, you mentioned it right off the bat. We both called it one of the ugly plays, but it's something that he did very well there, which is the play action rollout,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yep. And then the next thing, and I tweeted out a whole series of these earlier this week, not because I saw him in the game on Sunday, but just because they've matched concepts with what he's done. The outside screen game, Deebo Samuel, right? You laughing
No,
at the no
I
hat?
sorry. No, no,
No
no,
hat.
no. He says no hat. Yeah,
Yeah, no
that's
hat.
Nick from Nothing But Niners. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
Make sure you subscribe to his channel. They got a
yeah.
huge following over there, but good guy. I
Yeah,
love Nick.
so no, that's what we're talking about. So that they run the little the throw to Debo is a play that it's very similar to what they did at North Dakota State.
Yeah,
They ran an over route, which for people that don't know what an over route is, it's when the guy's running from one across the field. Basically, it's like they're running like a flood route where you have a guy deep, a guy over the at the next level, and then you have a guy in the flat. They did a lot of that at North Dakota State. We saw the 49ers try to hit one of those. It was there for whatever reason. Lance didn't pull the trigger. But what I like about that is Shanahan putting him in a situation to do what he's already good at. We saw things in the running game. There was one run that when I was watching it with Grant, I was like, that looks really familiar to a play that I saw him run at North Dakota State. And so I went back today and I found it because I got the All-22 myself today and I was looking at it. And I went back and found it from his college tape, and they're the exact same play. And it's unfortunate that in the game on Sunday, Lance didn't keep the ball like he should have. If he reads it correctly, he has a 5-yard gain, 10-yard gain around the edge, and said it's only a couple yards for Sermon. But there's a lot of things that just in Sunday that I guess it's a long way for me to say there's a lot of things that Shanahan did in a very short amount of time without preparing, like he's going to be able to do on this week if Lance is indeed the starter, where he was running concepts that Trey Lance is familiar with. So it's going to be that is a reason for 49er fans, I think, to get excited for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And assuming that he is the starter, and I'm still not sold that he's going to be. I got this weird feeling that Jimmy's still going to play. We'll see, but let's assume that he is the starter. One of the things that I do want to see is him keep the ball, because when he came in against the Raiders and in this game, he never once kept it. And there's multiple chances where he easily could have racked off 15, 20 yards if he does decide to keep it. So hopefully that's just him being extra cautious. But this week, if he does play, he absolutely needs to keep a few of those and show that he's also a threat to run the ball.
Yeah, and that goes back to his reads and things like that, right? Where it's not a play, it's not a pass, but it's still he needs to be able to make the right read, and
yep.
If that guy steps inside, running around him and what have you. So, yeah, that's definitely something that if he gets into the game this week, we're gonna want to keep an eye on. And Nick says, appreciate you guys, keep up the good work, grind as always, love the channel and the chemistry. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it's fun working with Jesse. He and I get after each other quite a bit on Twitter, and and then we get on our shows, and sometimes we argue, and sometimes we get along. But no, it's always a good time. It's always definitely a good time. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, for Trey, and really kind of going back to not being fully ready on Shanahan's part. Yeah, there was the concept that you talked about. They basically ran it 3 times. It was the first throw to Debo where they had the double slants and then the flood concept. And they ran that 3 times. And I guess I probably should have mentioned this in the good as well, is Lance, when I say he doesn't know how to read a defense, I mean it in the sense of post-snap. So pre-snap, I'm sure he has a good idea of what's happening. But as a quarterback, you're supposed to figure out who the player, the defender in conflict is, and watch him. And whatever he does, that's where you throw the opposite way, right? Mm-hmm. But instead, what he's doing, and this is encouraging because he knows the offense, is he's watching his receivers and deciding where to throw based off of what they're doing, not that defender in conflict. So he knows the offense. I'm very confident in that. He doesn't necessarily make the right read sometimes or the quickest because he's not reading a defender like he should be as a quarterback. But when I watched that play, they ran it 3 times, if I remember correctly. And the 3rd time he did actually read the defender and he made a perfect, a great decision and a good throw. So it was encouraging for me to see him kind of mess up the first 2 times around. But even though he hasn't really gotten to watch a lot of film or anything like that, the game's still going on. He still was able to adapt and make the right decision later, even though it took him a couple times. So that's encouraging to me. And it kind of goes back to what we learned about him, Jack, in the offseason from Coach McAvoy, is he really is intelligent and he really is a very quick learner. So that was good.
Yeah, and that'll pay off as he progresses. And we'll get in. We'll talk a little bit more about about Lance playing this week when we get down to the keys of the Cardinals game. I think that'll be a good spot to get in
Yeah.
there. The next topic that you and I wanted to talk about and get into was, do the 49ers still have a realistic shot at the playoffs?
I want to get your thoughts on this first.
I'm going to say right now, as of today, they do.
Okay.
And it really depends on what they do on Sunday. I think if they lose on Sunday, that really buries them, because now they've lost. It's 3 games in their 3 games in, and depending on what happens tonight, they might be a game and a half behind Seattle if Seattle's able to pull this game out tonight. On the other side, a win. Let's just say that Seattle does win tonight because they're leading right now. Let's say they win tonight. If the 49ers win on Sunday, that puts them in a 3-way tie for second place with everybody else, with the Rams and the Seahawks, and they'd be only a game behind Arizona. And, kind of just watching, we get caught up watching the 49ers and how they're playing and what have you. And then we watch like this, what's happening tonight, and a team that the 49ers pretty much dominated throughout the majority of the game on Sunday, is playing toe to toe with a Rams team that everybody thought was the best in the division. So it's hard to say. I'm having a hard time right now saying the 49ers are maybe as bad as we were thinking they were after that game on Sunday. So
yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's my thought. It's, if they win on Sunday, yes. If they lose on Sunday, no.
So I wanted to look at it as worst case scenario. I wanted to operate under the assumption that they do lose Sunday.
Okay.
Wheels falling off. Okay. That was just my mindset as I looked at it. And so, because I'm leaning towards the Cardinals, right? But so let's assume they lose. They're 2-3. They're going into the bye week. The bye week, it's interesting because when we first saw the schedule, we were going, early bye week, this is the worst. It's actually coming at the best time, right? Like, you have this quarterback conflict, which will definitely get sorted out by the time they come out of the bye week. You have a lot of injuries of players that are iffy this week, but for sure will be back after the bye week, right? It'll give Kittle an extra week and some of these other guys that are banged up. So I actually really like the bye week placement right about now. It's needed, especially if they do lose and they're coming off of 3 straight losses. What a time to get it figured out. So, and then I look after the bye week. I actually think there's 2 extremely winnable games right after the bye week. You have the Colts at home, and going into the season, I thought they would lose to the Colts, but the Colts really just are not that good. So I think they can beat the Colts, and then I believe they go to Chicago and play the Bears, and I think that they win that game as well. So as I started to look at it, I really, even if they lose Sunday, could see an 11-6 scenario. I still could see that, because there's a lot of favorable games on that schedule that I think that they should certainly win. So I could see 11-6, but you usually drop a game that you don't expect to drop, and things change throughout the season. So I think 10-7 is still, even with a loss, a very realistic expectation. And 10-7, you got a really good shot to make the playoffs at 10-7. I believe that.
I do too. I think that 10-7 is probably going to be the 7 seed, right in that ballpark. Because if you look across the NFC right now has 11 teams, I think, they have a lot of teams that are at 2-2 or better. But I think it's going to be somewhere around 10-7. I think get you either into the playoffs, or you're in the fight on that last Sunday of the season to get in. So I think a lot of what you're saying is spot on. Even if they do lose, maybe they have a chance. But maybe I'm being a little more pessimistic on that and thinking they need to get this win.
Well, listen, I said that last Sunday's game was the most pivotal game of the season. And I really still feel that it was, because with the win, they were in second place in the division and really in the driver's seat. They come out and win this week, and they're, probably in first place, or they would be in first place. So I felt like last week was real pivotal. Any conference game is always important, right? But I still feel like there's still a good chance that even if they lose it, they could be okay. So not as bad as what I had thought. When I looked at the schedule, I'm like, okay, there's some very winnable games still.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. And then real quick, I want to address this one. Luke Walsh asks, will Kittle play on Sunday? That's a good question, and I like this question because we don't know right now. What we know is that he got hurt on Sunday, kept playing, finished the game. He has not practiced yet this week. As last week, he didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday either. So it'll be interesting now to see if he's out there tomorrow. You know, in 2019, and I put this out earlier today, but in 2019 against the Cardinals, if you remember in that game, he hyperextended his knee early in the game. He was able to finish that game out, but then he didn't play for a couple of weeks after that because of that. So that's a really good question, and part of the reason why I question whether he's going to play or not is because the team brought back Jordan Matthews to the practice squad, which now gives them 5 tight ends. I don't really understand why they would need 5 tight ends on their roster, especially when one of those is the tight end that they picked up off of the practice squad right from Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
He had been on the active roster, had been released, and they brought him on and signed him to the practice squad. And he's actually played a lot for Tampa last year. So it leads me to think that there's something going on with the tight ends on this team, why they would need to find somebody like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I bet you if Jimmy plays, he plays. But if Jimmy doesn't, I don't think he will.
There you go. Well, that could be it too. That could definitely be part of it.
Little conspiracy theory in me.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next one now. So that's our playoffs. I think we're both kind of saying that we think they do. Keys to the Cardinals game, and I'm gonna let you start off on this one.
Yeah. So I think it's two-pronged, right? It's twofold. And I look at the Cardinals, they're one of the, if not the worst run defense in the NFL. I believe they're giving up over like 5 yards a carry, which is crazy. I do expect that Mitchell is back this week, adding Trey. So Sermon, Mitchell, Trey, Juszczyk. I think that they can run the ball almost at will against this team. So I think the best defense this week is going to be a ball control offense. And so the number one thing is they have to find out a way to just control the ball and keep it out of Kyler's hands. That's number one. And then I would say number two, they have to make sure that the pass rush does not get home because it is an explosive pass rush. And I look at what the Green Bay Packers did, the Eagles did, and Seattle kind of did down the stretch against the 49ers to nullify that pass rush. And that's just quick plays, screens, stretching the field horizontally through the pass game. Those types of things are going to have to be at play here because, even if Trent Williams plays, you've got some very good pass rushers on this team and they will find a way to get home. So for me, those are the two keys is play keep away from Kyler through the run game. Your best defense is your ball control offense, and then stretch the field horizontally through the throw game, which is not something the 49ers do a lot. Usually it's stretch the field horizontally through the run so that they can open up the middle. Well, if Garoppolo doesn't play, then you can start stretching the field a little bit more horizontally and get some of those quick passes going, some outs, far hash to sideline. Those types of things will work in this game. So those are my two keys to victory.
Yeah, those are good ones. I think for me, definitely need to get the run game going. I like the one that you mentioned as far as kind of maybe shortening the game up by using the run to limit the amount of times it plays that Kyler Murray gets. So I'm with you on that one. The other one is that they need to do whatever it takes to slow down Chandler Jones because outside of Chandler Jones, their pass rush is still good, but he's the one that's causing the most havoc. He's got 14 quarterback hits on the quarterback through 4 games. Nobody else in their team has more than 3. So if they can slow him down, I think that slows down the pass rush. And I'm sure that they're probably saying the same thing about Nick Bosa on the other side because Bosa's kind of that guy for the 49er defense. So
yeah, for sure.
Need to slow down Chandler Jones. I think they might be able to do that a little bit if they can get the run game going. And again, that's where if it's Trey Lance, maybe he can come out and he can help with that a little bit. You hit on a lot of good ones. I like the the horizontal stuff, getting the ball out to those guys quick and let them kind of take advantage of their speed. Debo and maybe Ayuk, maybe using Juwan Jennings. We've seen them utilize him with some screens and things like that as well. So those are kind of their screen guys. If that pass rush is really doing a good job and they expect them, maybe you see something like what we saw at the beginning of the Arizona Cardinal game. Maybe they come out with a game plan that's going to call for a couple of screens early on, and maybe that's a good way of getting Lance into the flow of the game. We saw that on Sunday, right? On that last drive, he had a nice easy throw to Juszczyk on the out route. And they came back and it was a nice gain up the sideline. The next one is a screen to Juszczyk. Nice, easy throws, good yak after it to help him out and gets him into the flow of things, and then the offense just starts to flow. So maybe they can get their screen game going. That's always one thing that I would talk about when it comes to slowing down a pass rush. Especially
I also wouldn't be shocked, Jack, if they do something, take a shot play like they did against Kansas City in the preseason, like early, right? Just to back up that defense a little bit, so that then they can open up the dump offs, especially if Trey Lance is in, because they're expecting run right out the gate. Like, we're not a good run defense. The 49ers want to run the ball. Trey Lance in the game, they definitely want to run the ball. It might be a really good time to just go play action and take a shot early, and tell them. Roll them out and say, listen, if it's there, take it. If it's not, throw it away and we'll live another down. But that might not be a bad idea to start out and say, let's just go for it right away.
Yeah, I would expect to see something like that on the first drive. Maybe not at the first play or two, but at some point, I think that's going to be in their plan. Because even in the Kansas City game, that wasn't their. I don't think that play was supposed to take place on first down. I think they had expected that drive to go on, and then it was going to be like their fourth or fifth play of the series. So I think we'll see something like that though occur on defense. And as far as their defense, they need to come out and play like they played last week. Really, their pass rush needs to play the same way that they played against the Russell Wilson. And what I liked about their pass rush was when they were it wasn't like they were coming cautiously at him. They were full all out, but they were also fighting to stay within their pass rush lanes, which is something that you don't usually see with the 49ers. They usually burn themselves by getting out of it. And on Sunday, the one time where it looked like it was going to happen in the early going, Javon Kinlaw was able to step right inside and seal that off, right? And and so on. So if they just can do that again, and they're going to get, or I'm pretty sure they're going to get Josh Norman back this week, and between Norman and
Mosley,
Patrick and Mosley, Mosley's playing lights out, and between those three and Dante Johnson, I think you have a good group of four cornerbacks that can manage, and they just need to not have coverage breakdowns like they did last week. That's what did them in, is they finally broke down in coverage and had two of them on the same drive on that first touchdown drive.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And I've said it for the last 2 weeks, and if the run game gets established enough that it may change this, but you're going against arguably the league MVP, you've got to expect 30. So can you score 31, right? Like, that's the key. That, to me, that's the mark, is can you get over 30? Because if you do, you're probably going to win that game. But you've almost got to expect that even if the defense starts out well and whatever, that Kyler's just going to get loose a few times and make plays that you just, quite frankly, cannot stop. So
it'll be interesting to see the game plan, because the 49ers have generally done a good job against Kyler Murray when the last couple of years under Robert Saleh.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to give him and frustrate him as much as they did, like, for example, last year in the second game when they played him in Arizona, because he really didn't look all that good in that game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Yep. So, all right, let's jump over, and then let's also, real quick before we jump on to the next one, like I was talking about, I do think that Trey Lance is going to play. I think Lance is going to get the start. I think that there's Garoppolo hasn't practiced these first 2 days. I wouldn't expect him to necessarily to start practice tomorrow. I think it's a situation where he's not 100%, or at least they're going to say he's not 100%. I mean, yesterday's press conference was funny, quite frankly, and I think they're going to say that he's not healthy, and
Yeah.
they're going to roll with Trey. It's the perfect time to do it. You throw him out there, you see how he does, and if he does good, you roll him, you keep rolling with him. If he struggles, you got an excuse to go back to Jimmy Garoppolo because he was injured. Now he's not. So that's how I think that whole situation is going to come down.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, actually, let me ask you this. What do you think it takes for Trey to, let's say he does get the start. What do you think it takes for him to keep that job?
I think if he just goes out and plays, if he can play the way that he played on the final series throughout the game, then he's going to be the starting quarterback going forward. Okay. It's just I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be really herky jerky and so on. But I've been wrong plenty of times. I'd like to see him go out there and if he goes out there and lights it up and plays well, I think that you may see him stay in, even if they lose.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's predicated on a win here. I really don't. It's just comes down to how well he plays. So
yeah, I think you're right. That's mine as well. And then real quick, because we're getting up against it, predictions. What do you got going on for your prediction for this week?
All right, so I've got the Arizona Cardinals winning.
Boo this man. Boo him. Boo. He said, look at this guy. He's a hater. He's saying that the Cardinals are. No, I'm kidding.
I picked Seattle last week. I hated it. Oh, it hurt my heart. What did I say last week? 27-23. I was close.
Yeah, we're both close.
I'm going to go 31-23.
31-23.
Yeah.
And you're going with Arizona.
Yep. The Arizona Kyler Murrays.
Yeah. All right. I hadn't done my math to get the numbers right, but usually my numbers aren't right anyway. They're usually close, but they're not right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go Seattle too, even though I want to say 49ers really bad, just because I'm going to say Seattle or Arizona wins 27-23. I'm going to take your prediction from last week, I think.
Okay.
I'm going to say 27-23 Arizona over the 49ers. And I don't think it's going to be because of a quarterback mistake. I think you're going to have an issue there. So 27-23 Arizona.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this would be huge, right? If they find a way to win. I mean, what a massive win going into the bye week. So I hope they win, man. I hope they figure it out. I really do. I don't see it happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I want to say that the 49ers are going to be able to win this one, like 30-27, something like that. I just have a hard time doing that because the Cardinals are undefeated and they've been playing pretty darn well. So I'm gonna and also the other thing is I had picked Arizona before the season in this game, so I'm gonna stick with that. That's kind of one reason
absolutely.
That's probably the main reason why I'm sticking with it more than anything.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
So, anything else that you want to add tonight before we jump off?
Well, I don't have a channel to plug, but one thing I did see in the chat, and I'm an MMA guy, they keep talking about the McGregor leg break from a couple months ago in July. What's funny, so he fought Dustin Poirier, guys. I don't know. You guys keep calling him Justin. It's Dustin Poirier. But there's a picture from like 5-6 years ago with John Jones, and he's like got his back against the wall, and he's talking to Anderson Silva, Conor McGregor, and Chris Weidman. And wouldn't you know it, those are the only 3 guys to snap their legs in half in the UFC. It's really interesting that happened. And then there's that picture floating around of all 3 of them talking to John Jones, who has his own legal issues. But what I will say is since you cannot come to my channel right now, and hopefully you will be able to soon, make sure that you smash the like button tonight. And all those subs you were going to give me, if you haven't given them to Jack, double down. Give him 2 subs if you can. Hit the bell notification so you never miss a show. Jack is fantastic. And I know I always have a home away from home with Jack right here on Hammer and Nails. And that's all I got.
Yeah, yeah. And then as far as the whole, real quick, thank you for all that, by the way.
Mhm.
As far as the whole Conor McGregor thing, is his leg still broken? Is that why that first pitch in Chicago almost hit the guy in the first row?
Yeah, it's definitely healing. I mean, he's yeah. I
No,
don't
I'm,
think
I'm
that's why
completely
he's
joking.
terrible.
That was
He's
that was
terrible.
that was one of the all time great first pitches that I've ever seen. My favorite part of that whole thing was the bear who's the catcher, and you see him like watch the ball fly, and then if you as you watch, then he just turns and he just stares at him. Oh, that
He's
was
like, what
that was
is going
the
on?
fun. He's like, what was that?
Go watch him throw a football in Dallas 3 years ago. That was pretty sad too. It's really bad. He
Yeah.
clearly is from Ireland and played soccer growing up. It's very clear because that dude cannot throw a ball worth a lick.
There you go. I just had to get that out there. I know you're a Conor McGregor guy too, so I saw that pitch and I couldn't help but laugh and think of you for a minute when I saw that. So anyway, thank you everybody. Thank you very much, Jessie, for the plugs, and thanks everybody for taking the time to join us tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We will definitely be back. I'll be on. I'll be around doing some stuff this week, and I'll be on Sunday with Surreal Sunil over at Surreal Sports Talk.
So real sports, yep. And
Surreal
you'll
Sports.
be there Sunday morning, pregame, and I'll be there Sunday night postgame. So you can catch both of us over there at separate times. So
Yep. And then I'll also be with him. I'll also be with him on Monday, and I'll be doing my own post game thing real quick after the game and what have you. So yeah, if you guys like what you see though, so please subscribe, please leave some comments. Those are all great things for the channel. So thank you all very much for joining us on a Thursday night. All you guys are probably still watching the football game a little bit, and we just appreciate y'all. Have a great night.
absolutely.